I love mythology. Obviously, I did base my entire multiverse on it after all. However, it wasn't always like this. 4 years ago, the multiverse was a lot smaller than it is now, and built off of the wacky, clueless carelessness of a college freshman. Only really taking the monsters from mythology and folklore, but nothing else. But I've grown a lot since then, and the verse has too. Taking several different mythologies and melding them together into one large, cohesive story. And now I think it's time to rank them. Hey guys, I'm the author, and today I'm going to be ranking the many different mythologies that comprise our multiverse. But before we get started, let's set some ground rules.
The mythologies ranked today have to have major prominence in the verse. Ergo, if I only take one or two creatures, characters, or locations from the myth, it does not count. This removes mythologies like Celtic and Chinese myth. And the mythology has to be an actual mythology and not just a creation myth. So the Kono creation myth, I love ya, but you gotta go. Lastly, I'm ranking each mythology based on several key factors. How much of the mythology takes up the verse, how much I had to change to make it fit into the verse, how much of the mythology I had to take out or merge with another to help it fit better, and most importantly, how much I like the mythology personally. Specifically, how much I like working with it. Now on to the myths.
Alright, here we are, the ranking zone, and all of those exclusions leads us to 5 main mythologies. We have Abrahamic mythology, Japanese mythology, classical mythology, Egyptian mythology, and Norse mythology. Let's start off with the first one, Abrahamic mythology. Now, in the past, I didn't really want to do this one because I grew up in a religious family, so I didn't feel comfortable fictionalizing these people. But I got over myself, and now it's one of the biggest mythologies in the verse, with a lot of its history helping to form the history of the multiverse as a whole. So, honestly, I feel like I have to give it at least a B. Because, again, I don't really feel comfortable working with it. But overall, I think it has to go to an A. I feel like, there's so many creatures that we've taken from Abrahamic mythology as well. And again, the history really helped us. But I did take out a lot of stuff from Abrahamic mythology to help it fit better, because I didn't really want the verse to be overran by Abrahamic stuff, and there's a lot of stories from the Bible that I did not include. So it can't be S tier because of that. But I don't feel like it can be B tier because of how much we did take. So I think A tier works best for that. Next is Japanese mythology. Already, I'm going to put this in D tier, and here's why. While I do like working with it, I'm not really working with the mythology, I'm working with the concept of the mythology itself. Mainly because, unlike the others, which has at least some prominence in the verse, Japanese mythology has to be combined with so many different things. Most of the mythology doesn't even exist in our verse, or it's been written out or changed drastically. For instance, in the Mother timeline, Japanese mythology is combined with Norse mythology and then another mythology that I forgot the name of, since why it's not on the list. And then in the Meta timeline, it's also combined with Norse mythology. In the Mother timeline, the Japanese gods are actually just the Vanir in Norse mythology, and then in the Meta timeline, they're the Light Elves. I didn't really take that much from it. It just is there and is large enough to be put on this list, but not large enough for me to really put it any higher because it didn't take that much from it. It has to be down here, sadly. I wish I did take more from it though. Classical mythology, which is pretty much a combination of Greek and Roman mythology. It is honestly the granddaddy of all the mythologies that we've taken from. Already, that has to give it at least an A tier. But I do have to give every single one of these things its own tier because it's 5 tiers, 5 mythologies. Here's the issue. I've burnt myself out on classical mythology. If you look at the wiki, and I'm editing each page in order on a timeline, there is so much Greek mythology in that. So many different pages that I had to make, all telling the exact same story over and over and over. I got burnt out on it, so that pushes it down. And overall, I didn't take that much from it. In the past, I only really took the monsters from Greek mythology because Greek mythology has such a wide collection of monsters and demons and creatures. I just had to include them because you can't not include them. But over time, I've included more mythology. Half of the mythology, over half of the mythology, is not even existent. Like, I'm still trying to work out how to include things like the labors of Hercules into the verse, which I have not successfully done. So I feel like B tier probably is the best fit for it. It hurts me because this was one of my favorites, but not anymore. I have to leave it right there. Egyptian mythology. What to say about this one? Unlike Japanese mythology, Egyptian mythology is very small. Japanese mythology is larger, but I use less. Egyptian mythology is smaller, but I use a lot more. To the point where I pretty much know everything that happens in the mythology. That should not be a thing. Where one person who barely did any research knows almost everything that happens in mythology. I probably missed like 1 or 2 stories max. I have to give this one C tier. I used more than Japanese mythology. It's more straightforward, but it's still not as much as even classical mythology, for being honest with you. Like, I'm okay with doing this, but really I have to do this. The thing is, like, Egyptian mythology, there's not that much in it, and I can't use most of it because reasons. So I have to exclude those parts. I have to exclude pretty much the entire story. There's a bunch of stuff that had to like combine with something else, and I actually even had to take an Abrahamic story and combine it with Egyptian mythology to make it bigger. The plagues of Egypt. So yeah, one of the most important parts of the Egyptian mythology story in our verse is not even an Egyptian mythology story. It's an Abrahamic story. So it has to go down here, sadly. And last but certainly not least, we have Norse mythology. That automatically goes in the S tier. Alright, compared to the others, I probably used the most, or at least planning on using the most stuff from Norse mythology. I adapted the most from it, and I love working with it. I love working with Norse mythology. I love adapting it. I love changing stuff. I love adding things. It's the best. It's obviously S tier. A bit of history. In the past, I completely dismissed Norse mythology simply because of one huge key detail. Yggdrasil. I did not like the idea of the world existing in a giant tree, and also the world just simply being flat in general. So I was trying to make a more science fiction, science fantasy world, and that didn't work for me. I wanted it to be around Earth, and that didn't work. But then I discovered the MCU and their interpretation of Norse mythology, and basically used that, but made it more mythologically accurate in my verse. I've pretty much completely rewritten the multiverse to include Norse mythology. And everything sort of ties back into it, to the point where I even had to completely change 2 of my characters' backstories and history and species, because now it fits in with Norse mythology. That's how much Norse mythology has changed the verse. It takes S like hands down in my eyes because of how much I had to use it, how much I like it. I can't put it any lower than this. Here we go, guys. Here's the list. My official ranking of the 5 main mythologies that take up the Creatureverse. I feel okay with this. Again, I feel like this could work, but I feel like, if we're being honest, because I use more Greek creatures, I have to put it here. This works for me. Hopefully it works for you guys too. Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, like it if you liked it. So, I'll see you guys next time.